Welcome back to the Nose Plays Endless Space 2. So today we're going to go ahead and continue our game of Vaultergs that we started about a week ago. I'm going to continue to focus on trying to highlight some of their unique game mechanics, and we'll probably do another 10 to 20 turns today. We'll just see how the time goes. The main thing, again, that we're going to be focusing on is trying to demonstrate some of the unique traits of the Vaulters. The game's been out for a while, but this new expansion has introduced a lot of new things, and the Vaulters as a faction are just one of them. So we definitely want to interact with as many of those mechanics as possible over the course of this series, and we'll just see how long the series goes. One thing that is pretty cool, this is our home system of Vega 3. So you may remember in our last video we discovered Vega system pretty early. It was kind of iffy. I wasn't sure that it was going to be an ideal system for us, or if we might find something better. So we did a little loop of our immediate area and decided that there was nothing better, but that was okay because it increased the turn timer on our Golden Age, which is greatly increasing the output of this system. You don't notice it on this screen. This is only the output from the system itself, but I will show you in a moment what I'm talking about. Our Golden Age is still active for quite a few more turns. I think we're only about 7 turns into the Golden Age, and I think our turn timer was at 13 turns when we kicked off our first colony. So we got quite a few turns left before our Golden Age drops off. I've made a few changes, and I want to talk about those things in the strategy that I'm going to be pursuing for this next 10 turns. I've had a chance to think about it, and I've actually recorded this video several times already. I had a bout of hay fever earlier today, which just made recording insufferable, but I'm doing much better now, and so we're going to try to get through this thing. But that being said, what we were looking at the end of last turn was I'd highlighted this technology, and I'd highlighted the fact that we have access to this tier through the Science Political Party being in power and allowing us to research things one tier higher than we normally would be able to. This building in particular, plus 20 industry per planet, and this +1 per population, +1 industry per population, and another +1 industry per population on hot planets was something that I thought might be very, very useful. However, the amount of time that it's going to take to research that is going to stall out other more important aspects of our gameplay. The other thing that I didn't really think about is this building, and it's a lower tier tech. It's a cheaper building to not only build but also upkeep, and it has a similar effect, except for it's a pretty powerful effect because we have several planets with strategic resources on them. So this one actually would be a better choice. Now once this one has been exhausted, obviously the next one up would probably be predictive logistics, but it's not mandatory right now, and I think it's inefficient to try to jump that far ahead when we actually have one this low that still hasn't been picked up and is still relatively useful to us. This isn't always going to be the case. If we did not have access to a couple planets with strategics, this definitely wouldn't be the case, but I think this would be better served as a technology to get our industry going, if that's the path that we choose to take. It is actually not the path that I'm going to choose to take, however. We're picking up this technology now. We'll finish it at the end of the turn. It's going to give us access to colonizing the arid planet in our starting system. It's going to give us access to a nice building, particularly if you have cold planets. Or no, this isn't a cold planet one. This is planets with anomalies, which we have several. And this technology, which is particularly beneficial if you have cold planets. This is specialization, system specialization, or planet specialization, sorry. And I'm going to demonstrate the use of that very shortly. There's a lot of these. There's one for dust, there's one for industry, there's a variety of them, and they're very useful. They have 0 upkeep, and you can change them as often as you like. So you can kind of customize your system to meet your needs. One thing that is important is that every system should have one active once you have access to them. So you definitely want to turn them on as quickly as possible. It's just free resources that you're throwing away if you don't. Okay, that being said, turn 10 is pretty much done. We're wrapped everything up that we need to do for that turn. So we're going to go ahead and start off turn 11 by sending our scout ship over this way. We have a probe heading for this system. We've already kind of uncovered it, but this probe will just ensure that there's nothing else out that way. Our scout ship is coming back around to Mayal. I'm going to use it to scout these curiosities. And the reason that I'm rushing to scout curiosities is because we are currently in the lead for Seeker of Truths. So the first player to collect 10 curiosity searches will get a reward of 75 Hyperium. We are in critical need of Hyperium since we don't have any planets currently that we can see, at least, that have Hyperium. That's something that we could definitely use. I did in the last game pick up the hero technology, or hero skill, sorry, that gives you a half a point of Hyperium and Titanium every turn, and that was just in case we got stalled out or were unable to find or do any quests that produced Hyperium, and we'll talk about why in just a moment when we look at the Argosy. Okay, so that's done. We finished our science technology, and we're going to go ahead and queue up Universal Conscription. This is part of the quest that we have going on right here. We need to build 4 military buildings in our systems, and so we're going to go ahead and start with the Budokai bunkers. Budokai bunkers are pretty cool. These installations are named for an ancient site on Ariga that was an ancient capital of the people. As the legendary city was part underground, so these bunkers are rugged, vast, and highly defensible. The effect of this ability is a Vaulter specific or Vaulter unique. Obviously it references, Ariga and the Vaulters from Endless Legend. This gives us plus 300 capacity on manpower, which is pretty cool. The standard version of this building only gives 150, I believe. So it's a significant improvement over the standard one. One of the reasons why I went ahead and picked it up. Okay, let's go ahead and pull the Argosy out and take a look at her. And you can see we're 7 turns away from our free colonization. If I mouse over this, I can see how much it would cost to go ahead and colonize early. So we could potentially colonize right now if we had the resources. However, we don't have enough dust and we don't have enough Hyperium. That is possibly going to change in the near future, as we'll continue to collect a small amount of Hyperium, and we'll also potentially get that large cache of Hyperium from finishing the deed, if we are indeed the first ones to do so. I'm just going to leave the Argosy here for the moment. We'll just kind of put it on idle so it doesn't keep popping up in the queue over here. And there's not much else that we can do this particular turn. Well, there is one thing we can do, but we don't really need to do it right away. So 2 things were unlocked with that technology that we researched. First of all, the ability to colonize arid planets, which we definitely want to do, and probably before public partnerships. Secondly, we now have the ability to choose a planet specialization. So what this does is this adds to the population effect of each individual population that you have. And you can customize these to various ones, as I pointed out several times. Right now we only have one, but it's actually a really good one for this planet because it is a cold planet. So cold planets are good for science. This one will give us a little bit extra science above and beyond the standard bonus. So we're going to go ahead and throw that on the queue as well. I'm actually going to put it behind the Vega colonization. And then finally we have magnetic field generators. This is not going to be very good for us right away, but we have 3 planets with anomalies on them, and so it will have a significant effect once our populations on these 3 planets start to get pretty big. A little bit of science on all planets, but quite a bit more if planets have anomalies. So a good mid-game building for sure. Alright. Go ahead and end the turn. And one more turn and we'll be in Mayal. So enemy detected by first Dauntless experiment. All this is telling us is that the Argosy that was idled has encountered an enemy ship. This is just the scout ship for the Lumeris, so we're not likely to have any issue with him. We'll just put him on idle again. And that was a quick research. So now we're going to move right into the next one in the queue. I'm going to explain why I'm choosing this one. So I decided against colonizing Mayal, at least in the short term. What I'd really like to do is colonize the system that we found over to the right of where we're currently located. And it has the ability for us to, or the potential for us to colonize an ash planet. This is a pretty good choice for technology right now for a couple of reasons. One is it's going to get us into that system quickly on a planet that is okay. 2, it's going to give us another specialization. We're probably not going to use this, or not a specialization, a unique building. We're probably not going to build this anytime soon, but it is a useful building. It's a unique building that lets us gather titanium and hyperium, and so again, if you get locked out of systems that don't have those resources but you need them, this is one way to get into them. I think we're going to be okay though, so this is not a critical building for us. And it also gives us this, which is actually pretty powerful in a few of our planets. +5 approval per luxury deposit can be really, really good. And we do have a few luxury deposits in our home system. But more importantly, the reason that I want this, besides the fact that we can use it to colonize the system I'm eyeballing, is this discount up to the next tech, which gives us colonization of lava. So let's look at the 2 systems that we're currently dealing with. Bushir is the one in question, and we have a small ash planet with 2 curiosities on it, and we have 2 lava planets. So this isn't going to hold a lot of population, but these are both large and huge. They have a much larger population cap, and we also happen to have a lava planet in our home system. So by getting to that technology in the tech tree, we're going to be able to get a little bit of a discount moving up through this, since this is tied into it. So again, these little lines improve the rate at which you learn the next technology, so you get a little bit of a discount if they're connected by a line on the ones down the chain. So by getting this one costs a little bit less to research. The other thing that we're going to pick up in between is this over here, and I'll explain why once we get to that. but these two food buildings are going to be critical to the development of our first two systems. Okay. There's not a whole lot else we can do this turn, so we're going to keep moving forward. Xeno industrial infrastructure is done. Colonizing the arid planet in Vega will be next. We've gained another population. And once again we detected them leaving the system. So it took us out of our idle state. We'll go ahead and go back into it. And we're going to rush this guy over here and get some curiosities discovered. So we've got 2 in this system and 1 there. Alright, the first one was a complete failure, so nothing there. Second one was a Hyperium deposit. Third one was Super Spuds. And that gives us 10. First to get to 10 gets the 75 loot, so we now have a nice stockpile of Hyperium, which is going to be very useful for us. Looking at these deposits, titanium deposit is an average deposit, and this is also an average deposit. So these should produce about 3 per turn. That's pretty good for us. We have 1 probe left, and I can see right now that there's a chain here, so we're going to send our probe out this way and see if we can't find the system that's probably attached to that. And if we have any movement left, which we don't, we're going to go ahead and move back to Vega and then over to Boushir to get some more curiosities searched out. Our Golden Age is maxed out at 15 turns. And we do now have the ability to colonize with the Argosy. We could afford to pay a lot of dust and a small amount of titanium and Hyperium and settle it a little bit earlier than normal. However, we haven't even reached the end or even close to the end of the duration of our initial Golden Age. So if it made sense to colonize now, it would have to offset the cost of what we're putting into it, which is a lot of dust. I don't think it makes sense to do it right now, and I really didn't like Mael, even with the advances from the curiosities. I mean, we're still looking at a small ocean planet with average deposits and a not so good arid planet due to the minus industry. Even though we get it back, I mean, these basically cancel each other out, kind of. So it's not an ideal system. It is one we might want to grab, but not right now. I would much rather have this system, and particularly, well, I can't. Yeah, that doesn't really help me. Particularly because of all the industry. This could be a very powerful industry-focused system that can get us a lot of big buildings down quickly, ships cranked out when we need to get our navy going. I think that's what we want to do. In fact, I'm thinking that's so much what we want to do that I may actually send the Argosy over here now, just so we can do it whenever we're completely ready to. Man, the Argosy has a lot of speed. Okay. We'll go ahead and end the turn. Okay, so we went from a neutral relation to cordial. Cordial now allows this minor civilization to provide us with small portions of their resources. We can also retrofit and repair ships while on their system. So that's pretty cool. They'll let us use their spaceports. And you can see from here, we have 5 more turns of praise and 5 more turns of curiosity revealed, which is giving us a total of 6 per turn. That 6 per turn for another 5 turns is going to get us to 60, which is going to cross this next threshold. So right now we've crossed the first threshold. That's netting us dust, manpower, and science for the foreseeable future. If we were to cross the next threshold, all of these incomes increase significantly. And so one way to get a nice little head start in the early part of the game, particularly with dust, is to make lots of friends with minor civilizations, because once you cross this second threshold, the incomes really are quite significant and worth your while. We're going to continue to let that ride as is. We're going to go ahead and get our ships moving. Again, we could colonize this turn, but we don't have the research required. We will next turn, though, so that's definitely something that could happen. Alright. Good. So our probe uncovered Nis. I want to take a look at that. Okay, we went ahead and we got this. We're going to move into the food technology. And before we look at that, let's go ahead and decide what we're going to do here. So it looks like they might have uncovered some of these curiosities for us. Mixed effect here. We already knew that one was a negative. I think this one was still uncovered. I can't remember if it was or not. Either way, we have the option of colonizing this. It's only going to be 250 dust and 4 titanium and 4 hyperium. It will also give us another golden age for 15 more turns. I believe it's worth going ahead and getting this system going. So as you can see, ash planets are not the most fantastic places in the world to live, but they do have a few things going for them, particularly a high amount of industry. So, this is what I was talking about. Tons of industry in this system. Every single population that we get on this system is going to produce a lot of industry, and that is very, very, very powerful early in the game. The thing is, they do not produce much dust, they do not produce any science, and they have no food. The food thing is the biggest problem in that trio of problems. The science thing is handled mainly by our population, so because our population produces science naturally, we're not as penalized as other races might be for colonizing a system with 0 science in it. The food thing, however, has to be handled a different way, and this is the perfect system to demonstrate it. Unfortunately, this is not a Vaulter specific thing, but is definitely something to be aware of. So this technology has 2 system improvements, one of which is a generic system improvement, 10 food per planet, 5 extra food if it's a cold, 5 extra food if it's a hot. We have a lot of hot and a lot of cold planets in our system. Both of the systems we just, both of the systems, that we now have access to. So this is a pretty efficient building. It's going to help the growth of both of those systems. But this building in particular is one that is very important to utilize properly within the game. Intensive cultivation is a unique building. It can only be built one time in your entire empire. It has a fairly expensive industry cost for the early game, and the upkeep is moderately high. But the thing is, it provides plus 25 food per system level. So you can actually level this up. We'll talk about leveling up your systems later on, but you can actually get this quite high. I think level 4 will give you up to 100, so 100 extra food in a system like that has no food is fantastic. That means we actually have the potential to fill all of those population slots. The second thing that it does is it provides plus 3 food on original empire population. So each population pip actually produces 3 extra food. That pretty much takes care of the starvation problem that you have in systems like that, where you're producing so little food that your people actually start to starve and you lose population. So this building is definitely going to be one that we're going to put down in that system to keep it growing. And we'll be doing that relatively soon. But it's going to take a little time. And while we're waiting, we need to get this guy. So, yeah, I'm only giving up a very small amount of move to go ahead and shoot off some probes. So where are we going to shoot off some probes? We got 2 probes to shoot off, one of which can definitely go right there. The other one maybe down that way. And now we're going to do one more time our little probe shuffle. I'm actually going to go ahead and replace our armor plating with another movement speed warp drive, and this is going to give us a little bit more scouting potential. And then to reduce the cost of this ship isn't going to fight regardless of what we do. It's just not going to. So let's go ahead and remove the laser, and that'll reduce the cost of this. Boom. We've restocked all of our probes. We could launch a couple more of them if we wanted to. In fact, I think it's worth launching at least one of them right here. You can see that there is a junction where those two meet, and there's a system there. So we could get a nice scout on that system. And then I think I launched that one that way, but we can see down here there's another branch that comes over this way. So we're going to send a probe down that way. We'll save the other 2 so that we have plenty by the time we get to why am I? Oh, there. Gotta click on the right ship. Okay. And we'll make it there in a couple turns. Alright. Planetary landscaping in 2. Argosy ready in 4. We didn't check out Nis yet. Let's take a look at what Nis has. So small savanna with Jadonics, and a small Arctic with an unknown curiosity. Neither one of these. Neither one of these are really all that exciting. And then some very ugly toxic planets. Toxic planets are really, really hard to colonize. And the reason they're hard to colonize is the -8 approval per population. So a huge toxic planet is nearly impossible to colonize. You have to have some really, really big approval benefits, because a huge planet like that could have as much as -80 or even -100 approval when it's fully capped out. So that's just a lot to deal with, and that doesn't include anything else that's going on in the system. 2 of these that size, the amount of approval hit to this system would just be catastrophic if you tried to fill those planets with population. What is a possibility for systems like this is in the late game, mid to late game, you have the ability to terraform planets. And so having a large and a huge planet like that is really, really beneficial. If it's a crappy planet like a toxic one, you can terraform it into something more tolerable, and then it becomes more useful. But in its current state, it's pretty much a waste. Terraforming is really the only way that this system becomes worthwhile. That's a very late game type of a situation though. Alright. Turn 15. Oh, of course. We colonized this, and we now need to get it going. So, food and industry are going to be critical. Cerebral reality is going to be critical. The happiness building is going to be critical. Xeno-industrial infrastructure is not a good building for this particular system, at least right now. We don't have any fertile or temperate planets, and particularly the one we started on is neither fertile nor temperate. So this is really just a flat 10% or a flat 10 industry right now, potentially 40 once the system's filled out, 10 for each planet. But right now it's actually worse than drone networks, and it costs more to get up and running, and it also has a higher upkeep cost. So we're definitely not going to build it over drone networks. This specialization is something that we can get done pretty quickly. I'm just going to throw it in the queue so I don't forget about it. It's not something that's critical because none of these planets are cold, so we're not going to get a huge benefit from it, and none of these planets are going to have a ton of population on them right away. And so until the populations get bigger, this doesn't need to be rushed, but it does need to be done because it's just free science that we get once it gets completed. Okay. Our scout ship's almost there. Thought we... No, that's right. We didn't end our turn yet. So that's why that guy hasn't moved. Go ahead and end our turn now. Get our ship moving. Alright, we have an election. We can see that the scientists party is strongly in favor at the moment, and it looks like it's a close race between the pacifists, the religious, and the militarist party, with these two parties kind of being at the bottom. I'm not sure that we really care which secondary party gets in favor. We would like to keep the scientists going for the immediate future. Okay, we found some stuff. So all those probes are starting to detect things. We found the Hiroshima. We can make first contact with them. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now, do we want to praise them? Actually, these guys might be beneficial. They add food on sterile planets, of which we have many currently. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So 3 for 10 turns will at least cross this first line. I think that's probably good enough. we can decide if we want to invest more in them later. But I like that for now. Speaking of political parties, let's take a look at our laws. So we currently have Cram for Exam, which is giving us a little bit of extra science at the cost of some approval. We didn't care about the approval hit because our approval's still very high. But as our population grows, that's going to change. And once these approvals drop below ecstatic, we'll want to reevaluate whether we want to switch laws or whether we want to keep the laws that we have going. That could happen actually rather quickly because each population pip in this system is going to have a fairly large negative approval hit. So this one is going to be -4 per pip, -7, and -7. So once we start getting on these lava planets, approval is going to take a hit pretty big, and that's one of the reasons why I went ahead and queued that up. We'll need it to offset that a little bit. All right. Okay, we now have access to the food buildings we talked about earlier. We've colonized our arid planet. We've got another Vaulter population. And we have a quest. This is the Academy quest. It always comes on around turn 15. It's not exactly turn 15, but it's right around there. And basically, whoever can search the most atmospheric curiosities can get a fairly large reward for this early in the game anyways. 30 titanium isn't super great for us, but it's still better than nothing. So we'll try to get this reward by looking for atmospheric curiosities. I believe subterranean. Yeah, we don't have any atmospheric in that system any longer. So go ahead and grab that one. Grim Recycling Battle Tactic. So Grim Recycling, it's good if you have large fleets that are likely to lose lots of small ships. A large number of small ships with a few large ships will mean that the large ships will repair themselves after the battle, potentially. Not a great tactic, but maybe useful in certain situations. We've got 3 probes. There is an atmospheric curiosity down here which we'll want to grab. There is another one over on Oyad. Go ahead and get here as quickly as possible. We got to grab these before the Lumeris scout picks them up. I think the Lumeris scout may have gone this way to check out Nis, but as I recall, Nis did not have any atmospheric curiosities, so those won't help them in the quest. Okay. So now that we have access to food buildings, I want to go ahead and queue that up and put it ahead of public-private partnerships. We also have 2 approval buildings which we may want to consider grabbing. Happiness is at 75. What if I move this over here? 74. I think this is what we want to do, and this is why. More industry per population pip. So our industry is a little higher by having people over here, even though some of our other stuff is a little lower. Also, this planet can go ahead and research. We'll put it after that. Science specialization. This is not a cold planet, so they don't get as much for it, but it's a cheap upgrade. +5 per luxury deposit. That's actually 15 approval for this building. That's going to take a while. We'll go ahead and leave it at the end of the queue. We need to get up to 85% to get to ecstatic again. Yeah, both of our populations took a hit to approval from somewhere. -12 from cram for exam. Maybe it's time to go ahead and drop cram for exam. In fact, let's go ahead and abolish that law. Let's move into the Dirty Hands Act. We have plenty of influence. This will cost us some of our influence, but we should still be positive, which is fine. And this is going to speed up the rate at which we get Bouchier off the ground. Speaking of Bouchier, we need to go ahead and get some of these buildings going. So food is going to be critical. And this building in particular is going to be really important to get up and running so that this system can be self-sustaining as far as food is concerned. Do we have any luxury deposits in this system? We do not. That's unfortunate. 0 luxury deposits means we don't have access to the other approval building. This one might be... Yeah, this one might be the better choice in the long run. Just because it's cheaper, but also because it's going to take a lot less time to get it up and running. It's not critical right now because we did, by taking the cram for exam act off, we got back into ecstatic. And I think we did for both of our systems. Not quite for this one. So we're close to being happy, but not quite. That's going to get worse as more and more populations start to grow there. Nothing we can really do about that, though, until we get access to more approval buildings. Okay. Alright. So let's take a look at these guys. So as I pointed out earlier, we were getting very small amounts. They've more than doubled in most cases. This was like 7, now it's at 24. This was like 2, now it's at 4. This was like 4, now it's at almost 16. So definitely a huge boost by getting over this second line. At this point, we have the potential to assimilate them by paying them a little dust and getting a quest. If we complete the quest, sometimes with a timer, so there's like a 10-turn timer for a lot of quests. If we can complete the quest within the time limit, we can get a reward and we'll assimilate them. So let's go ahead and do that and see what their quest is. Okay. Solo quest. With a level 5 or higher hero, search all quest curiosities on the indicated planets in the system of Pegasus and Maal. Obtain the minor colonization. So if we are able to search these with the level 5 hero, we'll get 30 titanium and obtain them as a minor faction. We'll take over their system. So that's cool. We got a new quest curiosity over here and on Pegasus. Okay. It's gonna be a while before we get a level 5 hero, unfortunately. We're only level 2 and we're not gaining experience at a very high rate because our industry just isn't high enough. That is going to improve slightly and rather quickly once we get this planet colonized. That's 10 industry for her special ability, and then another 20 once we colonize this system. So we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. Also, just the fact that we're colonizing this planet over this one is giving us more industry, which allows us to build buildings faster, which allows us to level her up faster. Unfortunately, in order to accomplish that quest, we're then going to have to remove her from a system to search those curiosities. That may be too difficult to really mess with. So the other way to get these guys assimilated is to go ahead and praise them till you get the meter completely filled. That's kind of expensive as it is right now, but we might go ahead and try colonizing them that way. I think that's what's going to happen in the long run. Alright, we're going to make it to Zazmanos, and we're going to get that atmospheric curiosity. Reveals all the hidden isolated nodes near this constellation. Okay. Ooh. I think we just discovered our next colony. So Nair is right here. This is an isolated system that is part of this constellation. Large gas temperate, a medium forest, a huge ash, and a small desert. Quite a few curiosities. Definitely has some potential depending on what those curiosities turn out to be. And we've uncovered 20% of the galaxy. Since we're out of movement, we might as well launch off most of our probes. Probe stock cooldown 1 turn. We'll get 1 more back so we can use it for that. So we can launch out 3 probes if we want. Let's go there. There. And there. That'll uncover a good portion of the areas that we haven't discovered yet. Argosy will be ready to colonize in 1 turn. We don't have access to jumping across non-threaded star systems yet. So let's take a look down here. Basic fold drives unlocks free movement for all ships and increases the range. It will also unlock tier 3, so we'll get uncommon curiosities and Hyperium engines. And we'll have access to this tier, which we already technically do. But by unlocking this, we'll actually get access to this tier with our science faction still in, the science party still in power. Fold drives are pretty critical. Wormholes are pretty useful for getting around. They're much faster than the free movement. Free movement is very, very slow travel compared to cosmic strings, which we're currently traveling on, or wormholes, or portals, as the Vultures use quite frequently. We haven't gotten quite to the point where we're going to use portals yet, but we'll definitely use them later in the game. I think we're going to have to go ahead and grab this tech next, just so we can potentially colonize Nair. We know where this ship needs to go next, but it's still going to take quite a few turns before we can get there. Where this would only take 3 turns, so maybe we swap those, get this done real quick, and then have the option while we're still working on this afterwards. I think that's the better play. We need to jump over here to get that other atmospheric curiosity next turn. Everything's going pretty smooth so far. I'm a little concerned about this system getting snagged by the Limaris, but I think they're more likely to... well, we'll see what happens with Ying. Alright, a couple more turns and we'll go ahead and end this video. Argosy is ready for colonization once again. We've discovered a blue cap mold. Cerebral realities are finished. Ah, speak of the devil. So they went ahead and they did colonize. I wonder how they did it. I didn't notice any military over here. I'm guessing they probably just bribed them. That's usually how the Limaris work. They use dust for a lot of things that you would normally use influence for. And so they probably had enough dust output to just buy these guys off. That means that this is a system that is very likely to fall next. They're just going to keep moving along this path. And Mael, even though it's not a great system, it has a 3rd curiosity now, which makes it a little bit more valuable. Plus the dual strategic deposit on it. The problem is it's a small planet and there's not a lot of expansion to other planets in that system, so I'm not as excited about it as I could be. Oh. Planet of Vale. A large Terran. That's actually a good planet. A large barren with some not so great anomalies. Not so good. Yeah, Vale's pretty cool. We won't be able to do anything until we get travel between systems or between constellations. Go ahead and jump over here. Our one probe for the one atmospheric curiosity. Fearful symmetry, that's a good anomaly for that. And some influence. Okay, we don't have any more probes. I already sent some off down this way. I want to get over here as quickly as we can, so we're going to go ahead and head back this way and then try to cross here, which will be the shortest distance. I'm thinking. And we can start scouting those curiosities. Alright. Things are going well here. We're staying above ecstatic. That is going to change with our next population, which means maybe we move this up. How many turns till our next population? 7 turns. It will be a Sister of Mercy. And Sisters of Mercy grant +2 approval. This system is currently at -3 +1. -3, but it's only actually -1 as long as the Sister of Mercy gets dropped on there. I can't quite tell how this approval is affecting us. So it's -3 per pip, +1 for the anomaly, plus another 2 for that anomaly. Is it actually netted at 0 approval? So each Sister of Mercy should actually give us +2 approval. Hold on, let's mouse over this. Yes. So we're getting +4 from planet. That must be from this planet. Yes. So Vega's giving us +4, and this one is getting +4 from the Sisters of Mercy. So yeah, this actually has all of the approval modifiers negated by positive approval modifiers. So even though it's an arid planet with a -3, the anomalies we got cancel that out. Cool. That's going really well then. Alright, last turn, and then we'll end the video, and maybe we'll pick up another 10 turns next week. Unfortunately, in this video, we did not hit a lot of the Vaulter specific gaming systems that were added, but we did point out a few things, particularly how to deal with a system like this, where you have absolutely no food. Using certain food buildings, and particularly this food building, we're going to make this system into something great for our empire, particularly an industry powerhouse. End the turn and we'll get to see the election. Okay, Sustainable Farms was finished in the Vega system. Our hero leveled up. So I'm no longer as sure that we need to go ahead and get another point in this. Plus 10 per Fertilon system, plus 10 on system. This would be 20 food on our main system, which is going to help it grow pretty quickly. We don't have as much food on the other planets as we do on the main one. So I think we're going to go ahead and go with that. And that will continue to get Vega's population to grow at a pretty decent rate. Go ahead and get our scout ship moving. We actually may stop in this system briefly to throw out probes, recharge probes, throw them out again, and then head over this way. Alright, and we were lucky enough to get 3, I think, atmospheric curiosities, which puts us in the lead, which gives us the best reward. Good job. Good job, boys. Okay. Pirates. We didn't talk about pirates. We'll talk about pirates more in the next video. They just spawned, I think, last turn. Couple turns ago. We do have the option of interacting with them now, which is pretty interesting, but whether it's useful or not, it will be determined by your situation. Right now, definitely not useful for us, but that could change in the near future. There is a particularly cool interaction with Vultures and pirates. Well, several actually, but that'll have to be for another video. I think this is a good time to go ahead and end this one. So I hope you're enjoying learning with me, and I'm enjoying making these videos. I'll continue to make a few more of these Vulture ones for sure. We'll see how far this goes. I may not finish this entire game on video, but if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments section. And until next time, this is The Nose Plays. Have a great day.